For your enjoyment, there's a hole in the bucket.
There's a hole in the bucket, der Liza, there's a hole in the bucket, der Liza, a hole.
Now let's see what Liza has to say.
Then fix it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, then fix it, dear Henry, dear Henry, fix it. With what shall I fix it, der Liza, with what shall I fix it, der Liza, with what? With a stick, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, with a stick, dear Henry, dear Henry, a stick. Well, the stick is too big, der Liza, but the stick is too big, der Liza, too big. Then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, then cut it, dear Henry, dear Henry, cut it. With what shall I cut it, der Liza, with what shall I cut it, der Liza, with what? With a hatchet, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, with the hatchet, dear Henry, dear Henry, the hatchet. The hatchet's too dull, der Liza, the hatchet's too dull, der Liza, too dull. Then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, then sharpen it, dear Henry, dear Henry, sharpen it. With what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, with what shall I sharpen it, dear Liza, with what? With the stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, with the stone, dear Henry, dear Henry, the stone. The stone is too dry, der Liza, the stone is too dry, der Liza, too dry. Then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, then wet it, dear Henry, dear Henry, wet it. With what shall I wet it, der Liza, with what shall I wet it, der Liza, with what? Try water, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, try water, dear Henry, dear Henry, water. With what shall I fetch it, der Liza, with what shall I fetch it, der Liza, with what? With the bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry, dear Henry, with the bucket, dear Henry, dear Henry, the bucket. There's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, there's a hole in the bucket, dear Liza, a hole.